Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this image. Now this image is a composite which is made up of three separate parts. There is a background, there is the foreground, and there is the steam. And I'm going to show you how I captured each element and then how I put it all back together again in Photoshop. Okay, so let's start with what I have set up so far. So at the back here I have a piece of grey card. I like to use grey card as a background because it has a very smooth surface, so it's easy to get a good graduation across it. Then coming a bit further forward I have my subject, which in this case is this chili. And I've got it attached to this retort stand so that we can photograph it in this position, and then I will take the retort stand away and we will then just take a blank slate of the background. That way all the stand can be erased in Photoshop. I'll show you how we do that a bit later on. So then a bit further forward still I have the camera. This is a 70 to 24mm zoom lens that I have on here at the 70mm end. At this sort of distance that I've got here, you don't need any extension tubes on this particular lens, but for your particular cameras you may need extension tubes if you've got a fairly small subject like this. And then finally I have the camera tethered into Capture One software so that it's easy to show what's going on. Okay, so the next thing to do is to just set up the first of the lights. So I'm going to place a strip box about here somewhere, so it's behind the subject. So we are lighting this from behind to cause a rim light on the subject, a rim highlight. So in order to do that I'm going to use a strip box, so I'll just get that set up now. Okay, there we are. So like I said before, I've placed this behind the subject. This is a 4 foot by 1 foot softbox with a relatively small flash head in the top of it. You can do this with a flash gun or a speed light or something like that. You don't need a great deal of energy to make this work. Okay, so hopefully this is set at a height which is out of the view of the camera. I'll just check that through the viewfinder. Yep, that is out of the view. So before we actually start using the light, what I want to do first is just take a blank image without any flash, just to see if we get any contamination from the house lights. So I'll just do that now. Right, so we can see from this that at the settings that I have on the camera at the moment, there is the slightest ghost of an image, but nothing too much to worry about, I don't think. So that's at the shutter speed of 250th of a second, which is the flash sync speed for that camera. I'm using an aperture of about f8, which should be okay from a depth of field point of view for this subject, with an ISO of 100. Okay, so with that exercise complete, I'll just put the flash trigger on the top of the camera here. Go. That will allow me to trigger all the flashes and also control them from the top of the camera. So with an arbitrary energy level setting, we'll just take an image and see how that comes out. Okay, so we can see the beginnings of our image here. So we've got our chili, we've got a nice highlight which is running all the way along the top here. It's not particularly well lit as we are at the moment, and we don't have much of a highlight underneath. Okay, so the first thing to do I think would be just to increase the energy a bit. So I'm just going to take it up by a couple of stops like that, and we'll just fire that again. There we are, that's made it quite a lot better. So that's pretty good. Nice highlight. the bottom here needs cleaning up somewhat. So in order to create a highlight which runs along the bottom edge of the chili, what I'm going to do is recycle some of this light. But before I do that, I'm just going to cover the tabletop here with some black cloths, just to make sure that I don't get any contamination. Because what we have on the screen at the moment is basically contamination coming up from the table. Now that should get rid of all the contamination, so we'll just do a test. There you go. And now you can see that the bits that we had along the bottom here have now all disappeared. I go back to the previous image. This was just coming up from the table. So with the black cloths in place, we end up with this, which is a much better result. Right. So to get back to creating our rim light around the bottom edge of this chili, in order to do that, what I'm going to do is literally recycle some of this by using a mirror down here somewhere. Again, it's out of view of the camera, but it will literally mirror this light at a lower level. This is a trick that you can employ in various situations where you want to rim light two sides of a subject, but one ends up underneath the table that you're using. So I'll just use these two mirrors. I'll just place these about here somewhere. That. And we'll just take that again. There we are, that's getting there. So now we have this rim light down the bottom, and we have our main rim light along the top. But the rest of the chili itself needs filling in ever so slightly, and also if you look at the numbers at the top of the screen here, you can see that we're actually getting a bit of flare in here, which is degrading the image a bit. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is just to put a flag over the top of the camera here, just to take that flare out. So here we are. This is just a piece of card. Just to stop the direct light from this softbox entering the front of the lens. So if I've got that in the right position, it should get rid of the flare. So let's just take a test. There we go, that's much better. This is what we had before, and this is what we've got now. It just increases the contrast across the image. Okay, so the next thing to address would be just to fill in the front of the chili here and a bit of the stem, just to give us a bit more detail in this area. And in order to do that, what I'm going to use is this piece of card, and I'm just going to place it in here as close as I can get it to the subject without it actually being in the picture. We'll just prop that up there, and we'll just check that in the viewfinder. Yeah, I think that's fine. And we'll just take an image. There we go, and that has added some detail into this end of the chili. If I go back to the previous image, this is what we had before, and this is what we've got now. I think overall I would like to increase the exposure ever so slightly, so I'm just going to take it up by maybe half a stop. There we go. Yes, I think that's a bit better. This is what we had before, and this is what we've got now. Okay, so for lighting the chili itself and for the foreground image, that is about it. There is nothing else to do for that one. The next stage would be to place a light on the background to create the graduated glow. So for that, I'm just using another one of these small flash heads. So I'm just going to place this at the back here, hopefully out of view of the camera and pointing at the grey card. Okay, so to find out whether that's in anything like the right position, I'm just going to turn off the overhead light, the one we've got here, and I'll turn on the other one at the back. And we'll just take a test. So you can see from this that we're getting a reasonably even illumination. There is a bit of fall off here, but not a great deal. So what I think I will do to start with is I'm just going to add a reflector to the light at the back, just to concentrate the light a little more. So here I have a reflector, which I'm just going to place on here, like that. There. And we'll give that another go. So just take another one. There we are, that's more like it. So you can see from that we have a reasonable graduation going off to the corners and a bright spot in the middle. Now obviously in the final image the graduation on the background is a deep red, and that is achieved by the use of this gel. So I'm just going to attach that to the light at the back here. This will alter the exposure, which is why I haven't really bothered doing anything with the exposure just yet, because it's easier to assess that when the coloured gel is in place. So just take that again. There we go. So we've got this dull red glow. It's possibly a little too dull at the moment, and just needs to come up by possibly one stop. Just to assess that, again, what I'm going to do is turn this light back on again. So I'll just turn that one on. And first of all, we'll just take a test with them both as they are. There we are. Yes, and I think we probably need maybe half a stop on the background, just to bring it up a little bit. So I'll just select the background light, and we'll just add half a stop to that. Yes, that's a bit better. So this is what we had before, and this is what we've got now. Okay, so with that captured, the next thing to do would be to create the blank slate, the blank background. So in order to do that, I'm just going to remove all the various bits which are supporting the chili. So I'm just going to take this out of the way, and we'll take another image. So that will easily paint in Photoshop to take out the stand and so on. So with those bits captured, it brings us on to the last part of our image, the steam. And in order to do that, we just need to reconfigure our set a bit. So I'm just going to place these two pieces of wood to make a stand. And on this stand, I'm going to place a cup with some hot water in it. Here we are. Just pop that in there, something like that. Now, obviously, at the moment, this isn't lit in any shape or form. So what I'm going to do is make use of this light that we have at the background here. And I'm just going to take the reflector off that and just spin that round so that it's now pointing at the cup. Something like that. Right. So we'll just check that through the viewfinder. The idea is that I shouldn't be able to see the light. So I will just take a test image. Yeah, that's starting to work. I can just about see where the steam is coming from the cup. I just need to adjust the light a little. Like this. Just turn that down a bit, like that. Take another test. There we are, that's the sort of thing I wanted. Okay, so this is a little out of focus. It needs to be focused properly, but you can get the idea. What we're actually doing is backlighting the steam from the hot water in the cup. So we'll just adjust the focus point and try that again. Yeah, that's a bit sharper. And now it's just a case of taking a few images until you get one which looks about correct. And so on. And I think we've probably got a good one amongst that bunch. So with all those elements of the finished picture captured, now I'll go into Photoshop and complete the post-production. So here I am in Photoshop and I've opened the selected elements of the image. So this is the chili on the background, and then we have just the background, and then we have this one of the steam. Okay, so the first thing to do is to make a stack of this image and this image. So in order to do that, I'm just going to go down here to Scripts and load files into stack. So I will add open files, and we'll just click the OK button and let it do that for me. There we go. So now I have all these different layers. So this is the chili, then I have the background, and then I have the steam. So just working with the chili and the background, what I want to do is just add a mask to this layer so that I can then just paint out the bits that I don't want. Just add a mask to that. And now just using a foreground color of black with a brush, and we'll just set the size. I'll make it quite soft to start with, and we'll just paint this away. There we go. Now as I get closer to the chili itself, I'll need to take a bit more care. So I'll just zoom in a little. And I'll just harden up the edge of the brush. There we go. I'm doing this quite quickly. You could take a little more time over it, but you get the idea. There we go. So just with a few clicks, that is all done. There we are. So that is the beginnings of our completed image. We now need to think about the steam. So what I'm going to do is just change the blending mode on these two images from normal to screen. That will allow me to see through the top two images, so I can see what's happening with the lower image, the steam. So what I want to do is just move this into position a bit and maybe reshape it ever so slightly. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go to Edit, Transform, Distort. So I'm just going to roughly make this into the right sort of shape that I want. Do a little longer. I'm going to get it reasonably close using this. Like so. Click on OK. Now I'm just going to warp the image a bit. So to Edit, Transform, Warp. Just move that up there a bit. Move this one in a little. And just bring that down. Something like that. Click on OK. And now what I'm going to do is just add another layer above the layer that I was just using. And I'm just going to paint into that layer with black, which will allow me to paint up to the edge of the chili, like so. There we are. And now I just want to, again, just make that quite soft, quite large. Just going to take the edge off. There we are. Let's take that edge down a little. This edge down a little. Make it a little more believable. There we go. Okay, so with that done, what I'm going to do is lock these two layers together, like so, and just change these ones back to normal again. There we are. Okay, so with those layers locked, what I want to do now is just make a stamp layer of these two which are still visible. And the way to do that is just to have nothing selected, so click out of the layers, hold down the Shift key, the Control key, the Alt key, and press the E key, and that will give you a stamp layer of anything which was previously active. So what I can do now is just put these ones back on, turn those ones off, and just change that to screen, like that. And that will bring the steam back in. And there we have our steaming chili. So it just remains to add a crop. So I'll go for 16:9. So click on OK. And there we go. So that is my take on a steaming hot chili. So this final image is actually made up of 3 images. You have the chili and the background, you have purely the background, and you have the steam. And by combining them all together, you end up with this finished image. Well, I hope that's been some use and has shown you a few little tips and techniques that you can use to make a similar image. Now, if you like seeing these sort of things, do click on the other images as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.